when we meditate, sometimes we can have visions or insights into things that aren't happening where you are. It can feel like you're seeing from someone else's perspective, maybe from another perspective of yourself in the future or in the past or in a completely different body. And it can be rather confusing when we sit and we see or experience all these things and we're unsure of what to do with it. So how do we deal with all of this, and how do we handle all these impressions that come to us that we're not used to dealing with? If you're new to the channel, I'm Martin, and I lived as a Buddhist monk for 6 years, where I spent most of the time in intensive meditation centers where we meditated anywhere from 8 to 15 hours per day. And I've seen a lot of stuff come up in my mind while meditating. So I'm quite familiar with having visions or having out-of-body experiences, or things that to a lot of people seem, wow, if I could only have that, then my meditation would be amazing. So I'd like to share exactly how to approach this and how to handle it when it happens, so that it doesn't become something that hinders you, but actually something that can help you move forward instead. So the most common thing when we start meditating is that we sit down and it feels like nothing's happening. And you're just sitting there and you're observing the breath or doing whatever you're doing, and just nothing seems to be happening. And then after a while, things go up a little bit, and you can have some experience that are just, I'm more focused, I feel better. And then after a while, for some people, there can be this bang, where there's like, wow, and everything becomes different. You're sitting and you can feel the impressions. Like I said, you can hear things that aren't happening right there. You can see something that is not happening where you are, but it feels more real than real life. Or you'll have a perspective on you doing something, but from another angle. It's like there's all these things that can come to your senses. And what happens here is that people then jump in and think, oh, but what was that? Was that a out-of-body experience? Did I see into the future? Did I see into the past? Did I see from someone else's perspective? Did I change time and now go back in time? And like, you can come up with all kinds of explanations of what you're experiencing. And this is where people get lost, because what happens when you're thinking about all of this? Because it can be kind of mind-blowing the first time this happened, because you haven't seen that before, and it's something new, and so you want to investigate, you want to understand, and you go on YouTube, you look at a video like this. What if I have visions? What do they mean? How should I use them to get my life to be the best possible life? And during all of that time, are you focusing on your breath or doing your practice? Are you actually aware of what's happening around you? Very likely not, because very likely you're caught off in some fantasy in your mind about what it is that you've experienced, how special you are, and how your life is going to be so much better now that you've had this experience. And so we get lost. So the best approach to all of these experiences, pretty much anything you experience in your meditation, is to just say, oh, well, that's interesting, and then keep on observing, because we cannot know what that was. Like I said, if I have a vision of myself doing something, that could be me seeing into the past. It could be me seeing another perspective. It could be me just looking from another direction, or like whatever. Like, we can never know exactly what that is. And ultimately, what happens when we get the mind to calm down enough is that the mind is used to constantly like popping out all these images and things and analyzing and seeing stuff. And when you're sitting still, calming the mind down, it still has the inertia to do that. It wants to create all these things. So when you close your eyes and you go inwards, the mind is going to keep spitting out stuff. And it's very common that it then spits out images or lights or sounds or whatever you want to create for yourself. And it simply seems to be a reaction that the mind is having inertia. Just like if I would do this and then stop, I can still feel the tingling on my arm, even though I stopped beating it. So it's the same with your senses. When you stop and you meditate, the mind will keep popping these things up. And it's very, very easy to get caught up in all of this and run down all these wild, and you come up with titles for yourself, and you believe you're communicating with other dimensions and all of that. And I'm not saying that's not possible. It's just that you're just creating more ego. You're just creating more identity. Now you have another layer of yourself that you need to defend, that you need to understand, instead of just doing what you sat down to do, which very likely was to enjoy being here. Because if you think about it, the reason you want to find all of these things out is because you want to enjoy being here in this body. And by following all these routes and going so far into these things, that usually becomes rather difficult. Now, the question here is, like we said, what is it we actually want to do? And this is a bit different for different people, but if you've ever gone to any of my meditation classes or guided meditation evenings or seen my videos before, you know that the main goal of the practice is to enjoy our life, is to enjoy being here. And the main hindrance to that is this sense of self that needs to protect itself by saying, I'm better than you, you're worse than me, I like that is mine, that is not mine, I want this, I don't want this. And the way to overcome that is to enjoy your life experience. It's to enjoy being here, no matter what your life story is telling you, just from the very act of being alive, learning how to enjoy that. And that's something that seems counterintuitive. It's because from birth, we're programmed to not feel happy unless we have X, Y, and Z happen, unless you're successful, unless you have a partner, unless you have an education, unless you have children, unless you have a car, unless you have 2 cars, unless you have, and we have all these things we believe we need to be happy. So I made a video here where I talk about why you don't need anyone's permission to enjoy life and feel happy. And I highly recommend you watch that next.